Earlier on we were talking about Mr. Price. Now Mr. Price is a retailer of fairly good quality and affordable apparel. Where is that apparel made? I don't actually really know. I know I bought a pair of boots there for 149 Rand 95 2 years ago, like those desert boot things, and they're still intact. I wear them about once a month, so that's pretty good. But what about textiles and the manufacturing of clothing in Africa? Listen to this. Africa has long been a source of inspiration for fashion trends, but for the first time it's being recognised as a valuable producer of fashion, with major retailers already actively sourcing from the continent. In response to this growing demand for quality manufacturing and products, Source Africa, the first exclusively African textile, apparel and footwear trade event, will take place in Cape Town from the 9th to the 12th. So it's already in progress. In the studio with me in Cape Town now is Dev Chamru, who is the CEO of Enterprise Mauritius. I thought the textile industry in South Africa and Africa was actually dead because of cheap imports, Dev. Clearly not the case.
It is not the case. Mauritius has 45 years of experience in textile and garment. We have seen our growth year in, year out going in, experiencing, despite the trouble in our traditional market, growth of around 6%. But over the years, we have more players who have come in the garmenting industry. South Africa leads by the fashion. They may not be leading by the numbers, but by the fashion, yes. You're creating a lot of fashion. You have Lesotho, Swaziland, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Madagascar. So we do have a very vibrant textile sector in Africa. Only thing is we have to find how to position. The total export of African garment to the US is less than 1%.
Why is that? Is it a cost issue?
It's a question of Africans being really serious about buyers. US buyers look for huge quantities, and our entrepreneurs are not used to that. They're used to very smaller deliveries, whereas the main market will be asking for much more. Things have changed. Things have changed in two ways. We had the rise of China, India, Bangladesh as suppliers. But things are also changing now in favor of Africa because cost of production in these countries have gone up. So the cost of producing garment in China is no less expensive than in Africa.
Well, on that note, I was in London over Christmas, okay, and I went to a shop called TM Lewin in Jermyn Street, you know, the traditional shirt making. I can see you're a connoisseur of shirts yourself. It's a fine looking piece you've got there. And they had a sale, 5 shirts for £100, okay. This is one of them, okay, which is pretty cheap. But I looked at the label, it's made in Vietnam. I said to myself, why is it not made in Swaziland or in Mauritius?
Vietnam has come in very strong as a major supplier of garments. A lot of Chinese industrialists have moved production because China is becoming expensive. And China is also producing for its local market, the big 1.3 billion market. But Vietnam has come up all right because of the policy of the European Union, all but arms. All LDC countries can export to Europe without any duty. So they compete with African countries on the same terms and conditions. In that platform, Africa, to a large extent, will not be playing in the low end because our labor, we may be large in numbers, but in skill, we are still not that. So we are competing more in value-added products. China, Vietnam, they still ship per dozen, while African countries will be pricing you per unit. But
it's technical issues, really. Is Source Africa going to help in this regard? Because I notice here, and this is quite important, because especially what you said about the trade that we do with the United States of America, it says Source Africa is being supported by the US Agency for International Development. So clearly they see this as an area that, okay, they want to develop, but they can benefit from.
Yes. See, in the whole movement, a lot of buyers who were sourcing from Africa, after the multi-fiber agreement was removed, they moved their production out. Very few of them were dealing with Africa because they were getting it cheaper. But the last 3 years, the cost of production in the major supplying countries, they have increased. So they are condemned to look back into Africa because we have the largest young labor, we have the largest unemployment labor, We have now the AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, that provides 44 countries from Africa, sub-Saharan, to export to US. So Source Africa is actually a medium to position the capacity of Africa. There are 19 countries present, 150 exhibitors, of which 45 are from Mauritius. And we have the USAID and other associations that have brought 22 international buyers. These are vice president, purchasing officers caliber people. They come to see the capacity of Africa.
So this is not just a sort of academic exercise to talk about the potential for the future. It's also a trade fair where buyers and sellers are coming together.
Business is happening already, and it's an interesting platform of 2 days of networking and 2 days of exhibition. Now, mobilizing 22 US buyers at one point of time coming down to Africa is in itself a feast. And these guys seriously are looking at alternative sources. Alternative sources because they know that the export from China is going to become difficult. Bangladesh will be having the standards problems. Vietnam will soon go into the problem of whether they can meet the norms of the US buyers. Okay, this is becoming quite an issue, and we are at this moment very interestingly positioned to take advantage of that.
What about in the last minute and a half or so, what about the raw material itself? Because it's one thing to have a great designer based in Cape Town, for example, or in a great facility in Mauritius. Where does the cotton come from, for example?
Okay, when we talk of the cotton garment, I think Africa still has a lead because a lot of cotton is grown in Africa. We have the ginning capacity, we have the spinning capacity, we have the weaving capacity. We make garments in Africa we shouldn't be ashamed of anywhere in the world. But when it comes to technical textiles, or when it comes to woolen, we have to rely on supply from China, India, Taiwan areas. But the law under the AGOA allows us to do so. Third country fabric is allowed. You can bring your fabrics from anywhere, do the nice garmenting and export. So we have the platform once on AGOA, and the European Union is better. It's one transformation. You can bring the fabric from anywhere, just make the garment, and then you go duty-free, quota-free. We're
going to leave it there, Dev, but it sounds very much as though this is an industry that can be part of Africa's development in the future, economic development, and also a job creator, which is so important in South Africa at the moment. One very final, very important question. Where's that suit made?
This is made in Mauritius.
Mauritius suit.
If you visit, in the suit department, Mauritius has moved from ready to wear to made to measure.
Bespoke. So I can phone up like I would do a Hong Kong tailor to send my measurements. I'll take your card afterwards. Dev Chamru, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
It's Dev Chamru, the CEO of Enterprise Mauritius.